I turn 18, thinking my biggest worry would be college or landing my first real job. But no, my own father decides that now I have to pay rent to live inside my own home. What would I do? Well, I didn't think twice. I took my own father to court.
My name is Dylan Matthew, and this is the story of how my 18th birthday became the worst day of my life. I woke up that morning in my childhood bedroom in Portland, Oregon. The walls were still covered with posters from high school, my trophies from track lined the shelf, and my acceptance letter to Portland State University sat framed on my desk. I could smell Mom's cinnamon rolls from downstairs. Everything seemed normal. Dylan, breakfast. Mom called. I pounded down the stairs two at a time, expecting cake, maybe some presents. Instead, I found my father sitting at the kitchen table with a folder in front of him. His expression was cold, professional, like I was a client, not his son. Sit down, he said. Mom wouldn't look at me. She just kept wiping the same spot on the counter, over and over. Happy birthday, son. Dad slid the folder across the table. You're an adult now. Time to start acting like one. I opened it. Inside was a lease agreement. My hands started shaking as I read. Monthly rent, $850. Security deposit, $850. Move-in date, immediate. What? What is this? It's a lease. For your room. You're 18 now, Dylan. In the real world, adults pay their own way. I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought it was a joke. Some weird birthday prank. Come on, Dad. Where's the real present? His face didn't change. This is the real present. I'm teaching you responsibility. You want to live here. You pay rent. Same as any tenant. But I'm not a tenant. I'm your son. You're an adult living in my house. He tapped the paper. I need your signature by tonight. First month's rent due in 3 days. My chest felt tight. I start college in 2 weeks. I don't have that kind of money. I've been saving for books and then you better get a job. Fast. He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. Welcome to adulthood. He walked out. Just like that. Left me sitting there holding a lease agreement for my own childhood bedroom. Mom finally turned around. Her eyes were red. Dylan, honey, did you know about this? She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded. And you didn't stop him. He's my husband. He says we're being too soft on you. That we never taught you the value of money. That her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, baby. I couldn't breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. This was my home. I'd lived here for 18 years. My first steps were in that living room. I learned to ride a bike in that driveway. I did my homework at this kitchen table every single night. And now my father was my landlord. I spent that day in shock. I called my best friend, Marcus. He thought I was joking. I showed him the lease agreement on my phone. Jude, that's insane, he said. My parents would never. Can he even do that? I don't know. I guess. He owns the house. But you're his kid, man. You don't just charge your kid rent. That night, I tried one more time. I found Dad in his office, working late like always. Richard Matthews, attorney at law. The brass nameplate on his desk gleamed under the lamplight. Dad, please, can we talk about this? He didn't look up from his laptop. Did you sign the lease? No, I can't afford it. You know I can't. Then I suggest you figure something out. I'm not running a charity here, Dylan. This isn't a charity. This is a family. Now he looked up. His eyes were hard. Family doesn't mean free rides. My father charged me rent when I turned 18. Made me the man I am today. You should be thanking me, thanking you, for kicking me out of my own home. I'm not kicking you out. I'm giving you an opportunity to grow up. Take it or leave it. I stared at him. This man who taught me to throw a football, who came to every track meet, who used to call me champ. Where did that person go? But then something clicked in my brain. He's a lawyer. He knows the law. But maybe he made a mistake. Maybe there was a way to fight back. I didn't sleep that night. And what I discovered changed everything. At AM, I was still awake with my laptop researching. Oregon tenant rights, landlord laws. Can parents charge rent? And that's when I found it. The loophole. Or rather, Dad's mistake. See, Oregon has strict landlord laws. Really strict. And if my father wanted to treat me like a tenant, he had to follow every single rule, including the ones he'd ignored. His lease was missing required disclosures. He hadn't given proper notice. And my room? I started really looking at it for the first time in years. The window latch that never locked. The outlet that sparked when I plugged things in. The corner by the closet where I could see mold growing under the paint. If he wanted to charge me $850 a month, this room had to meet safety standards. And it didn't. Not even close. By sunrise, I had a plan and a notebook full of evidence. The next day, I went to see Marcus again. This time, he brought someone with him. Dylan, this is my Uncle Terry. He works with tenant rights. Terry was in his 50s, with kind eyes. Marcus told me what happened. That's rough, kid. But you might have options. What kind of options? Well, if your dad's going to be your landlord, he has to actually be a landlord. Follow the rules. Make repairs. Do everything by the book. Terry pulled out his phone. I know a lawyer. Sarah Chun. She takes cases like this pro bono sometimes. Want me to call her? My hands were shaking. You mean, sue him? I mean, make him understand he can't just do this. Your dad's a lawyer, he should know better. I thought about Dad's cold eyes. The lease on the table. 3 days to pay or get out. Yeah, I said. Call her. Sarah Chun met me that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. She was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes that saw everything. I told her the whole story. She listened, taking notes, asking questions. When I finished, she sat back. Dylan, I'll be straight with you. This case could get ugly. Suing family always does. Are you sure? I'm sure. Then I'm in. What your father's doing using his power over you like this, it's exactly why these laws exist. She pulled out a card. But I need you to document everything. Every conversation. Every problem with that room. Can you do that? I nodded. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own house. I photographed every issue. Recorded conversations. Oregon's a one-party consent state, so I only needed my permission. I kept a journal of every interaction with Dad. And Dad, he had no idea what was coming. On day 3, he found me in the kitchen. Well, do you have the rent? I handed him an envelope. His face said he expected my signature on the lease inside. Instead, it was a list. Every code violation in my room. Every legal requirement he'd missed. Every mistake he'd made. He read it, his face getting redder with each line. What is this? It's my response. As your tenant, I kept my voice steady. If you want to charge me rent, the room needs to meet legal standards. It doesn't. You're really going to do this? Fight me on technicalities? You made the rules, Dad. I'm just playing by them. He stepped closer. You think you're smart? You think reading some laws makes you a lawyer? No, but I found one who'll represent me. Sarah Chun. Maybe you've heard of her. His face went white. Everyone in Portland legal circles knew Sarah Chun, the lawyer who fought for tenants against slumlords, who won cases that seemed impossible. You wouldn't. I already did. She took my case yesterday. For the first time since this started, I saw fear in his eyes. By the way, I know some of you watching might be going through something similar. Whatever city you're in right now, drop it in the comments. It helps to know we're not alone in these family battles. But that day, standing in my kitchen, I felt very alone, because I'd just declared war on my own father, and I had no idea how bad it was about to get. 3 days after I hired Sarah, everything exploded. And what I learned changed the entire story. Dad called a family meeting. When I walked into the living room, MOM was already crying. That's when I knew something was really wrong. Sit down, Dad said. I'm good standing. Sit down. His shout echoed through the house. I sat. He paced in front of me like he was in a courtroom. Do you have any idea what you've done? Hiring Sarah Chun. You've made this public, Dylan. People are talking. My colleagues, my clients. Good. Maybe they should know what kind of person you are. What kind of? He stopped. Laughed bitterly. You want to know what kind of person I am? Fine. Let me tell you something. He pulled out a stack of papers and threw them on the coffee table. Bank statements, legal notices, past due bills. We're broke, Dylan. Completely broke. I stared at the papers. What? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Richard, please, no. He wants the truth. Here it is, Dad's voice cracked. My firm lost 3 major clients last year. We've been living on credit cards for months. The mortgage is 3 months behind. We're facing foreclosure in 60 days. The room spun. That's not possible. You're a successful lawyer. I was a successful lawyer. Past tense. He sat down heavily. The legal market crashed for small firms like mine. The big corporate places took all the clients. I've been scrambling, taking any case I could get, but it's not enough. I looked at the bills. They were real. Tens of thousands in debt. So the rent, I said slowly, wasn't about teaching me responsibility. It was about survival. Dad's voice broke. That $850 a month. That's almost 1 mortgage payment. It was supposed to buy us time while I figured things out. Then why didn't you just tell me? My voice rose. Why didn't you ask for help instead of making me feel like some freeloader? Because I'm the father. I'm supposed to provide. I'm supposed to have answers. He put his head in his hands. I couldn't admit to my own son that I'd failed, that everything I built was falling apart. Mom finally spoke up, her voice stronger than I'd heard in years. So instead, you turned our son into an income source. You lied to him. You made him think he wasn't wanted in his own home. She stood up. You broke this family because you were too proud to ask for help. Dad looked at her, shocked. Mom never contradicted him. Never. Jennifer, no, Richard. I've been quiet long enough. Watching you push Dylan away. Watching you destroy our family because of your ego. I'm done. Tears streamed down her face. I should have stopped you on his birthday. I should have protected my son. But I was too scared of losing you to do what was right. She turned to me. Dylan, I'm sorry. I failed you too. I chose your father's pride over your well-being. That's on me. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Dad stood up. So what now? You sue me. Take everything we have left. Leave us homeless? That's not what because that's what will happen if you win. The legal fees alone will destroy us. We'll lose the house. Everything. His voice dropped to a whisper. But maybe that's what I deserve. He walked out. A moment later, I heard the front door close. Mom sat down next to me. We didn't speak for a long time. What am I supposed to do? I finally asked. If I drop the lawsuit, he wins. He gets to treat me like this and face no consequences. But if I keep going, you destroy us financially. Mom wiped her eyes. There's no good answer, baby. Just impossible choices. I looked at those bills on the table. My family was drowning, and I'd just sued the person trying to keep us afloat, even if his method was all wrong. That night, I called Sarah Chin. I need to know something, I said. If we win this case, what happens to them? Her pause told me everything. Dylan, it won't be pretty. But here's the thing about the truth: once you see it, you can't unsee it, even when it's painful. After learning about my family's financial crisis, I almost dropped the case. Almost. But then I realized something. Dad's money problems didn't excuse what he did. Being broke doesn't give you the right to exploit your own kid. Sarah agreed. Look, I get it. You feel guilty. But Dylan, what happens the next time they need money? Does he charge you more rent? Start billing you for food? Where does it end? She was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about setting a boundary that should have existed all along. The next week, Marcos and his uncle Terry helped me build my case. We documented everything. I took photos of every defect in my room, stuff I'd lived with for years but never really thought about as illegal. The mold, the broken lock, the outlet that sparked, the window that wouldn't close properly. Terry taught me how to organize evidence like a professional. Most tenant cases fail because of bad documentation, he explained. But you're building something airtight. Meanwhile, the story was spreading. A local news blog picked it up. Portland teen sues father over rent dispute. My phone exploded with messages. Some supportive, many hateful. Entitled brat in my day. Kids respected their parents. This is what's wrong with Gen Z. But there were other messages too. My dad did this to me. Glad someone's fighting back. You're braver than I was. Keep going. You are not wrong. At school, people stared. Some friends stopped talking to me. Others offered quiet support. It was like I'd become this symbol for something bigger than myself. Kids vs. parents. Boundaries vs. tradition. Standing up vs. keeping quiet. The worst part was still living in that house. Dad moved into a hotel to give everyone space. Translation: he couldn't look at me. Mom walked around like a ghost, caught between her husband and her son. One night, I heard her on the phone in her room. The walls in our house were thin. No, mother, I don't know what to do. Yes, Richard is struggling, but that doesn't make what he did right. No, I'm not choosing sides. I'm trying to protect what's left of this family. He was crying. I'd made my mother cry. But then I remembered something. I pulled out my phone and looked at the original lease Dad had given me. That cold, professional document demanding money I didn't have, with 3 days' notice, treating me like a stranger. I'd cried that day too, and nobody protected me. Sarah called with news. The preliminary hearing is into weeks. Judge Patricia Morrison. She's tough but fair, known for not tolerating BS from either side. Am I doing the right thing? I asked. Dylan, I can't answer that, but I can tell you this. What your father did was legally wrong. Whether it was morally wrong, that's between you and your conscience. The days before the hearing felt like walking through fog. I kept expecting Dad to come home, to apologize, to fix this. But he didn't. Instead, I got a text from him. I hired Marcos Webb as my attorney. He's one of the best. If you're really doing this, I'm not going down without a fight. Marcos Webb, the shark. The lawyer who destroyed people in court. My dad was bringing out the big guns. Marcus saw the message and whistled. Webb? Man, your dad's serious. That guy doesn't mess around. So what do? We make sure your case is perfect, because Webb will tear apart any weakness he finds. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the courtroom, about sitting across from my own father, both of us with lawyers, fighting like enemies. How did we get here? How did an 18th birthday turn into this nightmare? But I also thought about that lease, about being treated like a transaction, about years of dad putting work first, pride first, control first, and family last. Maybe this court case wasn't about rent at all. Maybe it was about finally being heard. The week before the hearing, MON did something I never expected. Something that changed everything. I came home from class to find her sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. She looked different. Determined. Scared, but determined. Dylan, sit down. I need to tell you something. My heart sank. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something's right for once. She turned the laptop toward me. I've been going through your father's financial record. All of them. MOM, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because I found something. Her hands were shaking. Dylan, your father didn't just charge you rent because we were broke. There's more to it. She showed me bank statements, credit card bills, and an email chain between Dad and his business partner. Read this one, she said, pointing to a message from 2 months before my birthday. I read it, then read it again. We need to figure out the mortgage situation. I've been thinking Dylan turns 18 next month. If we charge him $80090 for his room, that's almost 1 mortgage payment. Jennifer doesn't need to know the details. I'll frame it as a life lesson. I felt sick. He planned this for months. Yes, Mom's voice was hard. And I didn't know. He kept the financial problems from me too. I knew we were struggling, but not this bad. And I definitely didn't know he'd been scheming to charge you rent as a solution. Why are you showing me this? She closed the laptop. Because I'm testifying. For you, not for him. I stared at her. What? Sarah Chun's team contacted me for discovery. They asked if I had any communications about the rent situation. I could have said no. I could have protected your father. Her eyes filled with tears. But I'm done protecting him at your expense. You are my son, and what he did was wrong. I won't lie for him anymore, MOM. If you testify against Dad, our marriage is probably over. I know, she wiped her eyes. 22 years. But I've been making excuses for him for too long. His temper, his control, his pride. I told myself it was stress. It was his upbringing. It was temporary. But it never changed. And when he turned on you, my child, that was the line. She stood up and hugged me. I couldn't remember the last time she'd hugged me like I was still her little boy. I should have protected you from the start, she whispered. I'm protecting you now. That email, that smoking gun evidence. It proved Dad's rent scheme wasn't about teaching me responsibility. It was about using me as a financial band-aid. Sarah called it exploitation of a dependent family member. The judge would not react well, but it came at a cost. Dad found out about Mom's testimony 2 days before the hearing. He showed up at his house for the first time in weeks. Jennifer, can we talk? His voice was strained. No, Richard, we can't. You're really going to betray me like this? Side with him against me. Mom's voice was steel. I'm not siding with anyone. I'm telling the truth. Something you should have done from the beginning. That email was private. Between me and my business partner. You had no right. I had every right. This is my family too. My son. She stepped toward him. You wanted to make Dylan a tenant? Fine. But you don't get to use him as a secret piggy bank while lying about your reason. You don't get to manipulate both of us and then play victim when you get caught. I'd never heard my mother talk to him like that. Ever. Dad looked at me. Really looked at me. So that's it? Both of you against me? You did this, I said quietly. All of it. You created this mess. We're just refusing to drown in it with you. He stood there for a long moment, then walked to the door. See you in court, he said. The door closed. MOM sat down on the stairs and cried. I sat next to her. Did I just end my marriage? She asked. No, I said. He did. 2 months before my 18th birthday, the Multnomah County Courthouse felt like walking into a nightmare. News vans lined the street. Matthews Vieck. Matthews had gone viral. Everyone had an opinion about the spoiled son or the desperate father. But none of them knew the whole truth. Not yet. I sat next to Sarah Chun at the plaintiff's table, wearing my graduation suit. Across the aisle, Dad sat with Marcus Webb, the shock lawyer. Dad looked older somehow. Grayer, tired. MOM sat in the back row, exactly in the middle, not choosing sides publicly, but I knew where she stood. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Morrison, Judge Morrison was intimidating 60-something with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She settled into her chair and looked at both tables. This is Matthews versus Matthew, a father and son. In my courtroom, she shook her head. Let's make this quick. Miss Chin, Sarah stood. Your Honor, this case is simple. On Dylan Matthews' 18th birthday, his father, an experienced attorney, presented him with a lease demanding $850 monthly rent with 3 days to pay or leave. The amount exceeded my client's income as a part-time student. The lease was legally deficient. And worst of all, it was premeditated exploitation disguised as parental guidance. She pulled up the email on the courtroom screen. Dad's own words. If we charge him $80090 for his room, that's almost one mortgage payment. This wasn't about teaching responsibility, Your Honor. This was about generating income from a dependent child who had no real choice. Marcus Webb stood up fast. Your Honor, my client made a difficult parenting decision during financial hardship. Parents charge adult children rent all the time. It's not exploitation, it's preparation for real life. Preparation. Judge Morrison's eyebrow arched. Or desperation, Mr. Webb. Webb didn't flinch. Financial pressure doesn't invalidate parenting choices. Your Honor, my client acted within his legal rights as a property owner. We'll see about that. Miss Chern, call your first witness. The plaintiff, Dylan Matthews. My legs felt weak as I walked to the stand. I swore to tell the truth. Sarah approached gently. Dylan, tell the court what happened on your 18th birthday. I told them. All of it. The folder, the lease, the 3-day deadline. Dad's cold expression. How did that make you feel? Like I wasn't his son anymore. Like I was just a problem to solve. Why didn't you just sign the lease? Because I couldn't afford it. And because it felt wrong. He never asked, never discussed it, just demanded. I looked at Dad. He was staring at his hands. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? Why does he hate me? No further questions. Webb stood up. Mr. Matthews, you had $3,000 in savings, correct? For college. Not for, yes or no. Did you have $3,000? Yes. So you could have paid, but chose not to? That money was for textbooks, supplies. You made a choice. Thank you. Webb turned to the judge. Your Honor, this young man is asking this court to reward his entitlement. He had resources. He simply didn't want to use them. That's not exploitation, that's immaturity. I wanted to scream. But Sarah squeezed my shoulder. Let it go. We have more. Next came the big moment. MOM took the stand. Dad's face went white when she was sworn in. Mrs. Matthews, Sarah said gently, you provided an email to our office. Can you explain what it shows? Mom's voice was steady. It shows my husband planned to charge Dylan rent months in advance. He discussed it with his business partner, but not with me. He specifically wrote that I didn't need to know the details, and he'd frame it as a life lesson. Did you know about your family's financial problems? I knew we were struggling. I didn't know how bad it was. Richard hid a lot from me. She looked at Dad, including his plan to use our son as income. Webb tried to recover on cross-examination. Mrs. Matthews, isn't it possible your husband was trying to protect you from worry? By lying to me and manipulating our son. Mom's voice cracked. That's not protection, Mr. Webb. That's betrayal. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison called a recess. I need to review the evidence. We'll reconvene for closing arguments tomorrow. 24 hours to wait. The longest day of my life. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. This case had become a national conversation about family, boundaries, and when parents go too far. Judge Morrison entered, carrying a thick folder. She looked tired. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony. This is one of the most troubling cases I've presided over. She looked at both of us. Mr. Matthews, you're an attorney. You knew better. You created a legally deficient lease, timed it for maximum coercion, and most damning, you planned it in secret while lying about your motive. Dad's head dropped. However, she turned to me. Dylan Matthews, you escalated this to litigation when other options existed. Family counseling, mediation, open communication. You chose the nuclear option. My stomach dropped. Was I about to lose? That said, Judge Morrison continued, her voice hardening, the law is clear. The lease was unconscionable. The timing was coercive. The defendant used his position of power as father, homeowner, and legal expert to exploit his dependent son during a vulnerable transition period. She closed the folder. I rule in favor of the plaintiff. The lease is void and unenforceable. The defendant will pay plaintiff's legal fees totaling $8,500. Furthermore, I'm ordering family mediation before any landlord-tenant arrangement can be established. She paused. And let me be clear. What happened here should never have reached my courtroom. This family needs healing, not litigation. I strongly suggest you both figure out how to be father and son again. Court dismissed. The gavel fell. I'd won. Legally, officially, completely. But sitting there, watching Dad's lawyer pack up, watching MOM cry in the back row, watching reporters rush out to file their stories, I felt hollow. Sarah hugged me. You did it. You stood up for yourself. Yeah, I whispered. I did. Dad stood to leave. For a second, our eyes met. His were red. Then he walked out without a word. It's been 6 months since the verdict. I'm in my dorm at Portland State now, and things are different. Dad and I went to mediation like the judge ordered. 12 sessions of sitting in a small room with a therapist, trying to talk without destroying each other. It was brutal, painful, necessary. Slowly, so slowly, we started to understand each other. Dad admitted he'd been drowning. That asking me for rent wasn't just about money, it was about feeling like he had some control when everything else was falling apart. He'd been taught that fathers provide, fathers fix things, fathers never show weakness. And when he couldn't do that, he broke. I admitted I could have talked to him first, could have tried to understand before I went straight to a lawyer. I was hurt and angry, and I wanted to hurt him back. Mission accomplished. Neither of us were innocent. The family is still fractured, but we're trying. Dad's firm is slowly recovering. Mom's still in the house, they're separated, maybe permanently. She's figuring out who she is outside of being Richard Matthews' wife. And me, I'm learning that winning doesn't always feel like winning. Some good came from it though. After the case, Oregon started looking at landlord-tenant laws involving family members. There's talk of new protections for young adults in these situations. My story became bigger than just me. I get messages weekly from people facing similar situations. Parents charging impossible rent. Families using money as control. Kids with nowhere to turn. To all of you watching who've dealt with family conflict like this, I see you. It's messy and painful, and there are no perfect answers. Here's what I learned though. Boundaries aren't betrayal. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you ungrateful. And sometimes the people who should protect you become the people you need protection from. That's not your fault. But also, hurt people hurt people. My dad wasn't a villain. He was a desperate man who made terrible choices. Understanding that doesn't excuse what he did, but it helps me forgive him. Slowly. If you're in a situation like mine, document everything. Talk to people you trust. Explore every option. And know that whatever you decide, stay and fight. Leave and rebuild. Sue or don't sue, it's valid. Your situation is unique. The legal system can give you justice, but it can't give you your family back. That takes time, work, and both sides willing to change. Dad texted me yesterday. Proud of you, champ. Your track coach said you qualified for regional. Champ. He hasn't called me that in a year. I wrote back, thanks, Dad, 2 words, but they felt like a start. If this story meant something to you, drop your city in the comments below. Let's build a community of people who get it. Nobody should face these impossible family situations alone. And hey, share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes knowing you're not crazy, that your feelings are valid, that others survived similar situations, that makes all the difference. My name is Dylan Matthew. This was my story. And if you're in the middle of yours right now, you're stronger than you think. Set your boundary. Protect yourself, but also leave room for healing. Because family is complicated, and sometimes the only way forward is through the pain. The courthouse is behind me now, but the lessons, those I'll carry forever. Thanks for listening.